Tired of winning the tailgate but losing the games? We can't help that. But we can tell you what the hell is up with each team and what's going on across sunny San Marcos. Texas State fans, get on your feet. You're listening to Squaring Around with Jakob Rodriguez and Andrew Zimmel.
Welcome to another episode of Square Talks. My name is Jakob Rodriguez. That's Texas State Sports Press Andrew Zimmel. This week, we're joined by head softball coach Ricci Woodard ahead of their 2023 campaign. It was a really funny conversation. Andrew got to cover the Bobcats at the softball ballpark a lot, somewhat, during college.
Yeah, no, a lot. I'd say a lot, Jacob. They were one of my favorite teams to cover.
Not,
One of my favorite teams to cover, and I think Coach Woodard and I are going to become very close friends.
Dude, she was hilarious, and she loved you, and that doesn't really happen very often.
It doesn't. I'll tell you what, though, if you started taking note, people who are talented and smart seem to really enjoy me. Alex, Coach Woodard. I'm just telling you guys, for the haters in the audience, maybe it's on you.
Maybe you're the bad guy.
Maybe you are the bad guy.
We talked a lot about preseason expectations, kind of what she's seeing, and then ultimately what they have to do, which is still, playing in May and June. So,
yeah, hit the ball, see the ball.
Hit the ball, see the ball.
Yeah.
Low. What did Stuart Little say? A little high, a little low.
Something like that. Here's the interview.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Square Talks, where me and Andrew talk to coaches, athletic support staff, players, everybody in between about Texas State athletics. We're joined now by head softball coach Ricci Woodard. Coach, thanks for joining us today. We really just want to preview your team ahead of Friday's doubleheader and, just the Texas State tournament itself this weekend.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, I'll start here, Coach. Congrats on a really good season last year. The thing is, when I was looking at this roster, it's a lot of the same faces that we kind of get to know. You know what I mean? It's like I feel what I love most about your program is that I can kind of attach myself to a player and know that I'm going to get 4 really good years out of them. We could start with Jessica. We could talk about the pitching staff, but I want to talk about hitting because that's kind of, I think at the end of the year, it was where the bats started to kind of falter out because during the regular season, you guys were hitting the cover off the ball. You know what I mean? So going into the off season, what was like? What's the training like for your hitters?
Yeah, I think one of the things we tried to do is add a little power to our lineup. To be honest, Andrew, so picking up a JJ Smith out of Texas is definitely going to help with that. We got 2 freshmen that I think are going to help with that quite a bit also. One I didn't pick up till August. So she was kind of a late get for us too. I was going somewhere else and I just got in late and jumped in the boat and ended up getting her. So I think we've added a little bit more power, but I think last year we had to rely on our short game a lot. And at the end of the season, that's not a real great place to be when you're playing people like Lafayette and you got to score runs. So I think you hit the nail on the head. We went back and forth with our offense all year long, and a lot of those players in that lineup probably hadn't been consistent for the 4 years they were here. So expecting them to be consistent in their last year probably is still a broad hope for me maybe, but I actually thought some of those kids that have been here for 4 years did a really good job last year, and so we just didn't finish with some of our younger ones, to be honest, in my opinion, that needed to. But I appreciate you acknowledging the fact that those players stay 4 years, because that's tough to do anymore, is to find kids that are loyal to what you're doing in your program.
Well, and that's interesting because you mentioned that you were able to kind of get in the boat a little late on some of them. What is the pitch? Because I'm always curious when we talk to head coaches and just college coaches in general. I love San Marcos. It didn't take a lot for me to come there. But what is the pitch when you talk to some of these athletes to come to Texas State?
No, you're exactly right. If I can get them on campus, I got as good a shot as anybody in the country, is how I feel. But a lot of times, still living in this state, you're surrounded by the wrong colors. So I think if I can get them on campus, I don't lose many of those, to be honest. So I just think we're still the hidden secret, and we shouldn't be anymore.
I don't think, well, I've always said this too, especially with the way the Sun Belt's been growing. And I'd love to hear your take on that, the way that all of these, we added a bunch of teams now, but also it feels like it's becoming less and less of a secret when you talk about the conference. Because for the longest time, the conference was one of the best group of 5 in the country. What can you say about that?
Yeah, I think especially when you talk softball world, so it's a dang good conference softball wise. So, you're probably right. I think the football powerhouses the last few years have helped, drive this to, almost a little bit below the Power 5. But I think we're headed in the right direction in every aspect. I still get the questions of who's in your conference, and since it's ever changing, I think that's why, it's always like, okay, who's in your conference this year? So, I think that it's pretty widespread across the United States, but sometimes right here in the state of Texas, people are still asking, who's in your conference? Who do you guys play? Year in and year out. So I think that's part of it. But I still think, as I tell most recruits when they get here and they're like, wow, this is really nice. I'm like, yeah, I still think for some reason we're the hidden secret of Texas. And we shouldn't be.
How do you break that egg? How do you get that out there?
Yeah, I don't know. We got to win.
Okay, because that's kind of what I've always said. The argument has been in college athletics is like, well, what comes first? The fans or I think winning solves all, man.
Yeah, winning's that big band-aid, especially as much as your team has won in the past and been a really good bright spot for this program, the athletics department as a whole. You talked about kind of the changing landscape of the NIL deals and stuff like that. It's a different world, really. And you talked a little bit too about the conferences and how that's kind of a changing landscape in itself. Are y'all chasing like a Cheez-Its deal or anything? I know the baseball team is. Do y'all have anything like that too?
No, not yet. Not yet. I will tell you though, I probably have 14 to 15 kids that have some sort of deal with something with NIL. I try to stay out of it. I'm not gonna lie. At some point I'm probably gonna have to get involved and try to push things a little bit more from a coaching standpoint to have that extra fund. But man, it's a whole nother ballgame that I just don't want to venture into if I don't have to. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
I don't think I blame you either, because it's just one more thing on the already pretty loaded plate.
No doubt. Yeah. And it's, again, I don't even know if I would know how to start navigating it, to be honest. So, probably this summer, it's something I need to dig into a little bit more.
Well, I want to talk about Jessica Mullins because I remember when she came on campus, I asked you what's the difference between her and Randy, and you were telling me the drive was there. Like that was the biggest thing that you told me that between the two was that like this player has the exact same amount of drive, and then like we're going back to it. You get him for 4 years, it feels like, and that is what I absolutely love because Jessica has been incredible her first 2 seasons on campus. What else can you do? Like, what else does she need to be doing here, Coach?
Yeah, that thought process right there, Andrew, is what scares me. I'm not gonna lie. Because when you've been there and done that, what's the chip on your shoulder to drive you now? Because I feel like that was kind of the Jessica Mullins of her early years, is that she wasn't a highly recruited kid, and she probably should have been, just to be honest. And so I think, she had the naysayers that just thought she wasn't going to be able to do it in college. And some of that maybe because she was at a really good high school with Barbers Hill, and the 2 kids there that were throwing in front of her, one's at ULL and one's at Texas. And so I think she just got overshadowed a little bit along the way, which played dividends for me. Not only because she's here, but because also she was out to prove it to everybody that she could do it. So, I think she's a little bit more mature about the way she's going to approach life now. So you're hoping that will continue to pay off as she goes. The thing that I got to keep her wanting is the ball in her hand all the time and that drive that she has to beat you. Because sometimes when you've been there and done that, it's hard to keep that same drive.
Both of them went to the same high school, Randy and Jessica too. So
and the one before them was Chandler Hall, and she's out of there also. Yeah. And making
so what do you do?
Hey, so that's the hidden gem, really.
Yes, there you go.
There we go. Well, we're discovering it now. So you just got a pipeline, huh? You just go there and say, "Give me your ace."
Their baseball coach played football here. Baseball here. Aaron Fuller played a little bit of baseball here. So that kind of helped me. He started texting me early in his career and say, "Hey, I got one for you." So yeah.
So is Jessica still the ace?
Can you ask me that in May?
Okay. All right. Well, let me rephrase that question then. Who's coming up? Who else is there nipping at her heels?
Yeah, I would say this is probably the best pitching staff I've had in a really long time. Obviously Mullins is going to be Mullins and she's going to get the ball plenty. That's not going to be the issue. I'm hoping to be able to spread those innings a little bit wider this year so that she doesn't have so many of them and that she'll be at a better spot in May. But Tori McCann, who ended up with some injuries last year and didn't get to pitch from February on, took care of some things over the summer and is in a much better place. And she's throwing the ball really well right now. Carson Pierce is a lot of innings under her belt experience wise now and is throwing really well. There's some days in scrimmages that the pitchers just completely shut us down. And there's other days that we just demolish them. So I can't decide from a coaching standpoint which way I'm supposed to feel on which day, but I can tell you that it's probably the best staff I've had in a while.
Really? Yeah. That's saying something because you've had some pretty good staffs over the last 6-7 years.
Yeah. Again, we all know that if you can keep 2 decent kids going a lot, you've got a chance, but I don't want to have to rely on one at the end.
Is that kind of how you felt like last year?
Yeah, probably both of Mullins 2 years here.
Okay.
She's had to be at the end. She's had to be the one that carries us on her back. And, somewhere you get to a conference tournament, you got to play 4 or 5 games. She can't be that one person.
I agree. So I'm glad. See, this is something that I have said before, and I'm just happy that we're both on the same page here with this. Look, I'm just saying, I don't consider myself a genius, but I do like to be a smart individual. And if we're on the same page, that means I'm a smart individual because you're a Division I softball coach.
Well, neither one of us are very smart. I'm not sure which. I'll let somebody else decide that, Andrew.
I think you're a lot smarter than Andrew. I'll just go out on a limb and say that.
Now, just a lot older. The older you get, the smarter you get, hopefully.
There you go.
But I didn't know that birds migrate and all that stuff, and when they migrated and all those facts you just gave me.
You just picked up one brochure or Visit North Dakota or something.
No, I'm telling you. So we'll give a little pre-show. We're talking about birds because I got nothing better to do because it's so damn cold outside. So I'm looking at bird migration patterns. I'm reading different stuff, man. This is why you got to be a well-rounded individual. That's what they tell me. Be a well-rounded individual, know a little bit about a lot. And that's me, man. A little bit about a lot.
Okay, that's a good theory. I like that.
Yeah.
Know a little about a lot. We're talking about animals. It's a great time to be a Bobcat, really. There's a lot of excitement around the athletics department, of course, the football coaching hires and stuff like that. How excited are y'all just to get people back into the ballpark? I feel like the spring sports always get that big off season where it feels like, oh my gosh, can we get back to playing?
No doubt. It's funny you say that because just the other day, Jakob, I was thinking, some of these kids, it's been 9 months since they've, got to play in a real ball game again. So it'll be interesting to see how we respond come Friday night under the lights and, with the crowd in the stands and a little bit different feel. Obviously, we played some fall games, but they just don't have the same impact on them. It's one of those deals where you're trying to let everybody play and get a little bit of experience. But you go to the middle of May and then you go all the way to the middle of February till you really get to turn the lights on and go again. It's always a question of, okay, what is today going to look like? I can't wait to get somebody else in the other dugout with a different uniform on and see what we really do.
I'm envious of you guys getting to play baseball and softball. I'll just put it that way. There's still 2 feet of snow on the ground. I want to talk about the hitting that you guys have. We mentioned a little bit earlier, but you have would you say that Carr is your number 1 hitter coming back? Good batting average last year. I think it was 335, 61 hits, 35 runs, led the team in hits and runs last year. What does it mean to have somebody like that coming back in the lineup?
I'm guessing you're talking to Sierra Trahan.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Obviously freshman of the year, again, it's another kid I feel like is kind of wearing the weight of the world on her shoulders right now. Trying to repeat. And I'm like, quit trying to be who you were last year and just be you. But, she's just a kid that she's a coach's dream is pretty much what I call her because she works hard every single day, whether it's game day, practice day, there's no difference for her. So, anytime you can put that kid at the top of your lineup, you got a chance to start a game pretty successfully and stay that way because she just kind of sets the tone with the way she does things every single day. So, it'd be nice to have her back, but I need to have her not feel the pressure that she has to carry us.
Well, you can only win freshman of the year one time, right? It's kind of like that. Nobody's ever won rookie of the year 2 years in a row.
Good point. Just sets the bar kind of high.
I understand that. I get that. Now you do have players who get awarded in the preseason stuff. I can't imagine that as a head coach, you take a lot of stock into that. That's not something that, really at the end of the day matters.
Right. See, there we are on the same page again.
Look at that. See,
look at you, assistant coach Andrew.
Don't go that far, Jacob.
Maybe it's just because I've talked to too many coaches that I know the preseason stuff. It does not matter. I think Jacob and I were talking about the coaches polls, and we were trying to figure out like who votes in those. I imagine that again, it's like everybody feels the best before any games are played about their team.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, again, the coaches vote on the coaches poll, so. It's usually fairly similar to how the year ended the year before, and so are the awards. Like why are we awarding somebody for what they did last year? And we already awarded them for what they did last year. That's all the preseason awards are.
It's just one more thing to put in the media booklet. That's kind of how I look at it.
You're exactly right.
And it was February, but we're already playing for May, right? Like that's kind of the mentality. That's the standard. That's the expectation, right?
That is the expectation, to be playing in May, and even into June would be nice one year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm always I get called a negative Nancy because I have a high expectation for my university. Everybody always gives me the biggest load of crap about like, oh, you need to be more excited for things. Am I wrong for not being excited for a regular season championship, that I should be more excited for a postseason, winning the tournament, going into the regionals? That's where like our head should be as fans. Am I wrong for thinking that?
I go back and forth on that one, because again, if I can get into postseason without winning the conference tournament, that means I had a really good year and I beat some good people to do that. Last year I wasn't sure how this was going to go, because you're like, man, you had a really good year coming off a good year last year, but to me it wasn't a very good year. Even though we ended up winning 38 ball games, we weren't playing in postseason. And some of those bad losses are what got us. It wasn't necessarily the wins; it was the couple that we lost that killed us. But in this conference, I'm okay if I don't win a conference championship. I'll just be honest with you. But I want to be in postseason play.
Gotcha.
Because I just think this conference in softball is that good.
Is that the big lesson from last year? It's just
yes. Yes, that is the big lesson. Everybody wants to talk about beating ULL, but the ULL games aren't what keep us out of regionals. What keeps us out of regionals is losing to the bottom half of our conference during conference games. We can't afford to do that.
And is that something I imagine that's something that comes up in conversations in the preseason, but how does it go in the regular day to day? Like, how do you say coming into a game where you might have a 3-game winning streak against a team like ULL or, Coastal Carolina or something, and you come into a game against the bottom half, how do you get them up for that game? Like right. What coaching goes into that?
Well, the good part is after last year, I won't have to do too much, because it's sitting on them pretty hard. They get it. They understand, when you go to the end of the year and you win 17 games in a row at the end, that tells you that you didn't take care of your business early, that you could have. So again, there's only so much as coaches we can do and say. And at some point, they got to take some ownership. And I think that's been the biggest difference for this group is they've taken ownership of the entire year. And they've driven the boat from the get-go. They're not waiting until it's too late and then try to start driving.
That's actually, I mean, Jacob, I'll let you jump in here, but I feel really good about that. That's a really big testament to where this team is. Do you think that's because you had younger players who now are in year 3 and year 4 that they have like kind of taken onus?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think they get it now. I don't think they didn't think they weren't doing it wrong before, but I think now they understand a little bit better of what that picture looks like from August to now, instead of trying to figure out in the middle of March and it's too late.
Well, I guess like the weight that you're carrying only really feels like weight when you realize you're carrying it, So it's they look under like, oh God, that's what's on our back right now. Yeah.
And if you can carry that weight with a whole bunch of other people, it's a lot less weight on your shoulders.
And then the entire conference just staring at you, trying to see how y'all are going to respond week to week or,
Right. No doubt. Again, I like this group and what they've done to prepare for this entire season.
Well, prepare us for Friday night. What's the scouting report?
Wichita State hit 130 something home runs last year, and they bring back 100 of those. So, Friday, 3 p.m., we're going to find out what we're made of real quickly. We're going to have to score runs. Right now, I'm not sure who will be the starter. I have a feeling they're preparing for Mullins. So it's, the question, do you try to counteract that and do something different? I'll be honest, she hasn't been real healthy anyway. So it may be taken out of my hands. May not even be a decision to make. So, but that's the big one, now I look back and I'm like, what idiot made that schedule to open the season with them? But I think again, it'll tell us exactly where we're at and where we need to go. I feel like we have the opportunity to score a lot of runs ourselves. So this may be the best offensive lineup I've ever put on the field.
You talked about a little bit. What has to go right, I guess, during February? Is it just immediately mopping the floor with people? Is it hanging with people and kind of seeing like what character y'all got, down the stretch, or what is it?
Yeah, usually you try to say February is about getting to know your team and who you are and what you're going to do. But I mean, 90% of these kids that were on the field last year are back on the field this year. So there's none of that going on. This year, February is full go for us. I mean, we got to win, period. We got to win now. So there's no, yeah. I mean, there's no hanging out and watching. Usually a lot of times I'll say, if you come out of February, 50-50, you got a chance. But I feel like this team should do better than that.
Write that one down for you. All right.
That's in the quote book for sure.
Little bulletin board material there. Print the shirts. Okay. I like it.
Well, like I said, don't take everything I say to heart. I'm not the smartest or the sharpest tool in the shed, I guess I should say.
No, I understand where you're coming from with that. I get that, you have a team that now there's experience. There's no excuse not to be trying to win these games. I will say Wichita State will be a tough opponent. These in the mantra, don't miss high. When you're hitting a home run ball team, don't miss high.
Yeah, you're probably right. That was part of the scouting report yesterday. And don't miss over the plate. So yeah, they got two kids we have to stop. They got two kids that I feel like if we don't let those two beat us, we'll win. If we let those two beat us, then we're going to be in trouble.
Who's somebody else we should be watching this season, Coach? Somebody that we haven't mentioned yet.
Again, we can always throw JJ Smith in there, the kid that transferred in from UT. I think Kat Zarate is a freshman that I picked up late, and I think she's going to have a stellar year if she'll just not pretend like she's a freshman. I hate to say that out loud, but she's got all kinds of power and all kinds of tools to use. We just got to keep her confident in what she's doing. Sarah Vanderford looks as good as she's looked. I think since she's been here. Right now, she's pretty confident. I think defensively, we're going to be as good as we have been in every position. So, our outfielders are pretty much all three returning. Put Anna Jones out there in right field now as a starter, day-to-day starter. And then, you keep Randolph and Trahan both out there. So our outfield's as good as anybody's in the country, I would say. They run well. They do a lot of things well. So, it's going to be, it'll be a fun season. I don't think there's anybody that has to wear the weight of carrying us. Behind the plate, I feel like we got a couple of good kids that we're going to have to mix and match depending on the offensive side of things, but all three of them do a pretty good job back there. So it's going to come down to offense for that spot a little bit.
You got me really excited. Sounds like this is the best team you put on the field, Coach.
I honestly, and again, I hate to make that statement out loud, but, they've been a really fun group to work with. They're all bought in. We got 8 freshmen, and I feel like all 8 of them, are making us better.
Mm-hmm. They get it. They just jump right in and start pulling along. Okay.
Yeah.
You talk about fun group,
Yeah, they may not be on the field, but they're all in. They're fun.
Yeah.
So
I think you and fun. Trout probably have the funniest teams too. Me and Andrew are always on Twitter, always doing something online. I see everything the team posts. It's so funny. I think Presley was the one that got a shot in, and nobody wanted her to take care of their kids.
Hey, Tori McCann, because she's not a kid lover, and I don't think she would like to do it. I wouldn't let Bailey Welsh babysit my kids because she'd probably sit there and just stare at them.
Hannah, because she would get distracted and lose my kid.
How was it?
Presley, because she'd probably lose my kids, and I probably have to get on to her more than my kids.
Presley, because she'd probably lose them.
I would not let Presley Glendy babysit my kids because she would probably lose them.
Piper, I don't think she would take care of my kid.
Yeah, we got plenty of personality going on. There's no doubt about that. We might have graduated a little bit of that personality, but we still got plenty. Trust me.
Is that important? How important is that for a sport like softball to have just fun personalities?
I think it's just females in general. When they play, they have to have some energy. You know, if you don't see much energy coming out of them, then they're probably not going to be, you know, as good as they would be the next day with energy. So I don't think every player has to look the same to have that energy, but just in the softball world in general, you know, it's the cheers that drive me crazy and the, you know, that stuff that I just have to deal with because it's part of the softball world. But yeah, you're right. It is something that probably plays into a lot of players' mindset.
So you don't like the cheers either?
No, I hate the cheers.
Okay. That was the thing that drove me up the wall when I covered softball is the cheers. And I've now come to accept it as just part of life. But I remember being 15, 16, 17, going to softball tournaments, like to cover for a newspaper and stuff. And I was like, this is too much for me.
See, there we are on the same page. You just got to accept it. Some things you have to accept in life, whether you want to or not.
A good lesson to learn. Good lessons.
Well, you could tell, like, you know, however, you know, I don't want to say fun a team is, but just being able to play loose, and that translates immediately on the field, I always feel.
Right. See, there you go again. It becomes about their energy and their am I having fun or not? Trust me, that I hear that a lot. You know, it's got to be fun for me. I want it to be fun. I'm like, yeah, I don't really care if it's fun. I want to win. So,
winning is fun.
Yes,
Yeah, winning is fun.
So I'm like, losing isn't fun to me. I don't care what you guys do in the dugout. Losing's not going to be fun to me.
So you're coming into a pretty big benchmark here, hopefully. And I don't want to jinx it. We'll knock on wood there. Is it 800, Coach?
I'll try not to keep up with that, Andrew.
Okay.
I got the 500 hanging on the wall. And after that, you know, the 1,000's the next benchmark for me.
Got you. Okay. Well, we'll put it there. No.
And then I'm going to retire.
You heard it here first, folks. Don't get a t-shirt, no balloons, no ice cream cake. Just act like it's just on to the next game. I got it. No, I hear
only
it.
one other benchmark. 1,000.
1,000. That's it.
There we go.
All right.
That means I still have to do this a long time, and I don't know if that'll happen either. Just so y'all know.
Your contract runs through 2025 right now. Too, so
I want to put a chip on the wall, Coach, before you retire. We need to celebrate. Yeah. Come on. What? Just give me one banner. Is that too much to ask for?
No, I can do one.
Okay. Look at that.
Yes. You can have the 800 banner. How about that?
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, all right. I'm here for it.
All right. How close am I?
I think you're at 764, something in that.
Okay. So we still got to win a lot of games.
It's doable. It's doable.
The decorations are on back order. So.
All right. Yeah. Let's hold off on that.
It was great. I hope that softball gets that banner that I've been looking for. Maybe they will be the team that wins me a banner. Maybe it'll be baseball. Baseball did it well last year. I think softball they have they have unfulfilled potential that this group is, I think, going to try to get to the finish line with.
I'm so jealous of you and Coach Woodard's relationship.
As you should. I'm going to be a GA one of these days. But we'll do a quick aside. It started with my incredible coverage of Kat Osterman when she was the pitching coach, because I was the only person on campus that felt like took that serious, that we had like an Olympian, one of the greatest female athletes ever, at least let's say in the back half of the 20th century on campus. And everybody, it felt like it kind of got breezed over too much. So one of the last interviews I did before COVID ended everything was with Coach Osterman when she was going to go to the Olympics. And I remember talking to her being like, hey, I heard this pandemic thing might be pretty bad. It's in China right now. I hope it doesn't affect the Olympics. And then that's the last time I saw her face to face. And 3 years later, I'm still one of the biggest fans, but how much has changed? It's insane. You know, she's doing her thing. Texas State softball is doing their thing, hopefully winning a Sun Belt championship this year. But it's one of those crazy, like, you know, those moments that you don't forget, like wild.
Well, it's hard to not. I feel like every day is like that for her when you're that important to a sport. You know, it's like, what am I doing today? Like I was at HEB and I saw Kat Osterman.
No, it's weird. Like, whatever. This is an aside. Like, this does not affect Texas State softball currently, but I just think that it's amazing. She's one of the best athletes ever. Like, this is the equivalent of seeing like Serena Williams. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Or like Billie Jean King. Like, that is what Kat Osterman is. So
people thought she was done too, and then she strapped back up, went out there. Unfortunately, and left Texas State in the process, I should say.
And the fact that Texas State was like, we were there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like she was at Texas State. Like, I totally got like underappreciated in my opinion.
No, yeah, she definitely made the team and the athletics department as a whole.
She made Randy Rupp so good. Like, Randy Rupp was already incredible. Kat really helped her. And imagine if she was around for Jessica. Like, Mullins is already one of the best pitchers in Texas State history, and that's 2 years into her career. Like, we're already talking about her as like one of the best pitchers. Imagine if Kat was there, like helping her get to that next level. You know what I mean? Like, maybe she'll get it on her own. And the coaching staff at Texas State is still really good, but it's just like one of those those little things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So they have a doubleheader Friday night, and that's part of their Texas State tournament to open the season. So,
what do you prediction? Do you think they keep them under 100 home runs?
Wichita State?
Yeah.
In that game? Yeah, I definitely think there'll be less than 100 home runs.
I think Texas State's going to show out good. Hopefully Jessica's okay to pitch. If not, it's a good time as any to learn if we have a second ace. We have somebody else in the bullpen.
Yeah, no, you can only be the guy if you're the guy, right? So,
yeah, something like that.
Sweet. Square Talks, episode 2. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening. New episodes out every Thursday. Follow the boys on Twitter. Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up.